Good morning, good morning, good morning. Well, howdy, folks. Last night I went ahead and chose to rock and roll on another shot. So I spent 2 hours live streaming last night. Got this pencil tested and inked. And then this morning, before I came on here, you didn't get to see me, but I went ahead and got this guy colored in and added the shadows and then the cast shadow as well. Once you factor in this gradient over the top of it, which I believe is probably applied in overlay mode in the schematic, and indeed there it is. Yep, you get an overall look that's pretty good. And I found it interesting that the by having a sufficiently noisy shape in the cast shadow, that again, as is kind of typical, is just a vector level where I just drew the shape and then added the transparency here, and then by having this setting enable filter and transparency for rendering, it was interesting that it didn't really seem to good morning, Kronos. Good morning, Ashnan. Nice to see you this morning. I hope I said your name right. Didn't seem to matter that the cast shadow was not animated. So if we go back over here, that means that yesterday and then today, basically before I'm getting started, I've been able to complete 24 seconds of show, which is better than I need to do. Kind of shooting for 15. So this was the first shot I did. If you look really closely, no, Kronos, I absolutely do not use vector levels and would not for inking or coloring. If I really wanted to use a vector format for ink and paint, I have to say I'd probably be over in the Blender grease pencil, or I would create my art in Inkscape and then just cut and paste it. You know, I mean, you can cut and paste SVG into OpenToonz or Tahoma, but it doesn't work very well. It tends to fail most of the time. So no, for me, I'm always going to be favoring smart raster levels for ink and paint. And you know, my workflow in recent weeks certainly has been all about creating visual assets, mainly in Krita, and then cutting and pasting them into Tahoma. So my main reason for using Tahoma over OpenToonz, since they're pretty much the same program, is that you can in fact use the clipboard to cut and paste assets into Tahoma, which is really quite nice. So having said that, it's been an interesting week because everything that you see over the last couple days, nothing's been done in Krita. It's all been done in Tahoma. So, I mean, if I can stay there and get the result, you know, I'm good. So, that's the way I'm looking at it. Hey, Golden Slime. So, the next thing on the agenda is this really tight close-up of TNR where she says, "I'm not sure I do. Please explain." Now, I'm going to, I was just looking at this to say, should I reuse this shot? And there's no question I absolutely should. So step one would be to load up 523 and immediately save it as number 526. So let's open, what did I say, 523. Where are you, 523? You're here somewhere. I know that you are. There you go. I know it's here somewhere. Okay, cool. And then I tend to like having my visuals cropped to the camera. One thing you may or may not be aware of in Tahoma, which I don't know if this is in OpenToonz, is you can actually choose to modulate the opacity of that spread so that you can get the camera cropping and still see some context. I don't actually tend to use that, but it's there if the mood strikes ya. Okay, so yeah, the art here came out quite nice, and so let's just think about what we might do here. Again, we need to take the first two immediate steps, which is to resave as 5. Actually, let me check one thing, by the way. Let me look at the render here. I want to consider what I did as far as the bloom effect that I kind of went over yesterday. I have a suspicion that this is the earlier iteration of my homegrown bloom effect, and this could be a little better and a little more controllable. So I'm going to delete that effect and actually insert macro Dave's bloom. So that's the key to using Dave's bloom is to just take the level that you're affecting, which could be the whole scene, obviously, but take the whole thing and just pipe it into both inputs. So you can see that there is a bit of a problem there that I kind of touched upon last night that has to do with banding. It's not really able to resolve a smooth glow as well as one might hope. I'm going to see what happens if we actually add the effect to the overall output, because the key to it is the contrast. So let's just see what happens here. It's probably going to look the same, I guess. Nope, that solved it. Okay, so now what we can do is double click this, and it brings up the contents of the macro. Okay, so if we were to do what's called, we can explode the macro, which breaks it into its constituent effects, or we can just open it, which lets us look at what's in there. So you've basically got a level adjustment, a blur, and then additively you're comping the blurred version of that imagery over top of the unblurred version of it in, as I say, additive mode, which is going to have the tendency to brighten things up a bit. Okay, so having said that, I can grab this, and now I can see all the controls for the effect. Okay, so to dial it in, generally this is the key right here, is just the RGB output, because if I take this and crank it way down, and again I'll emphasize that this seems to be much more controllable and frankly more stable than the new bloom effect that's built into Tahoma, because and I've kind of had a conversation going back with Darren T about this. It's buggy. I mean, when it renders, it'll render your image as just a big space of white. So there's things you could criticize about it insofar as that the way the controllers are set up in the bloom effect are probably not as well conceived as they could be, because the usable range of adjustment is like 5% of the total range that you see on the bars here. There's a way around that, but the problem is when I went to render with it, it was causing problems kind of consistently. So now in this case, one thing I do want to do is I want to explode it, because I want to do a little bit of due diligence to see what I've really got here. So when I look at the level adjustment, that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to grab the levels. Let's push this all the way up to the top. Okay, the reason I did that is I wanted to be able to see what was actually being affected by the bloom. As you can see, it's including her face. I want to get her face out of there. Now, it may not be possible to get her eyes out of it, but what the heck? Let's see what we can do. If we push this up a little bit, yeah, see, this is pretty delicate too. Very delicate. But let me push that up. And now, this is obviously some very, very niggly fine tuning required to get the It's going to be difficult because this is where a mask would help, because what I really want to do is mask her face out, and there's a way to do that. I could create another level, like a vector level that's like a shape, and just cover her face, and it's only used in the schematic for the purpose of masking her face out. That becomes problematic, or it can, if the level is animated, because you got to kind of track with it. But in this case, you could solve that by actually piping the mask through the plastic tool. So anyway, let's just see if we can get the contrast pumped up here to where we want it. That's getting close. Obviously her eyes are still piping through, but that's not too bad. Okay, so let's go ahead and run here. Okay, it's not great, but obviously one reason it's not great is because the it's just too strong. But as far as bloom effects go, what I'm looking for is to try to tone it down before the point where it starts affecting her skin too much. So I would say that's not too bad. Another thing you can do is adjust the blur. Right now it's at 180 pixels. That seems to be kind of the sweet spot. You can adjust to taste, and we'll leave it at that for now. Okay, so actually no, we won't leave it at that for now, because there's one thing else that I'm thinking here, which is I think I want that toned down to just a little more. Okay, so if we were to just look at the scene, we'd see that, and if we look at the scene with the bloom added, we get that. So not too shabby, not necessarily the most amazing effect ever, but not too bad. So there we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is, before I go any further, I'm going to re-render 523 just so we get that bloom effect dialed in where I wanted it. And now we can resave, and we're kind of all ready to go on the next shot, which is again 526. So not necessarily the most glamorous bit of exciting animation, but that's the bad news. But the good news is, you know, these are the realities of creating an entire show. You know, there's a lot of sort of mundane work you got to do. Thanks, Enio-san, I appreciate that. Okay, so I want to change my output settings, so we're also going to folder number 526. All right, that's that. So now what she has a line of dialogue where she says, I'm looking at the script. I changed his line of dialogue. Basically, I kind of chimped out in this manner. She said, okay, so he says, let me just recap this. He says, well, of course not. I mean, you're a girl. And then she says, excuse me? Well, you know, I'm just saying. Hey, so he's basically an idiot, right? From her perspective. Okay. So now there's a little bit of a problem. Hey, Chris K. There's a little bit of a problem because her next line of dialogue in the script was, I'm not sure I do, please explain. And that doesn't make any sense because his prior line of dialogue got changed. I made it shorter. I say I chimped out because what I did was, in point of fact, this shot is literally, if we jump over here, this shot here is literally this shot run in reverse with a couple edits. It's cropped a bit at the beginning and the end, and it's actually chopped in the middle to move some of the lip sync sequences together. So, you know, why completely reanimate something that's already almost perfect, right? And as I mentioned last night, it's kind of surprising how often in a dialogue situation, running one shot, a recent shot in reverse, it's kind of surprising how often that actually works. So if you're an animation purist who feels that we should actually be drawing a picture for every single time anything moves, you're going to be real annoyed with me because I'm a bit of an animation pragmatist. Okay, so I have to think right now about how I'm going to change her line of dialogue. Oh, this is an iterative process. It's like the conversation we had a few days ago about programming from the waterfall paradigm versus the iterative paradigm. I tend to favor the iterative paradigm because my basic theory is that no matter how hard you try, you cannot decide in advance what a project, a program, a business, the weather, the market, you can't really know in advance how things are going to go. So you have to have this iterative process. For me, that means that as I'm working along here, there are minor modifications, you know, being made to the script all the time. They're usually very small, and sometimes there aren't any changes required, but it definitely comes up a reasonable amount of time. So we've got this 50-page script. And by the way, the good news on the show overall is that we're down to the point where episode 2 only has 6 minutes and 45 seconds left to animate. So we're humming right along, baby. So she's going to say, really? So, really? Now you see that? There's a great example of what I'm talking about. If you take the expression, and by the way, for this scene, we don't need these. We'll just get rid of them. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click on Panels, Scene Cast, and then right mouse click anywhere and remove all unused levels. And then resave. That helps Tahoma keep the underlying data clean because it's not keeping track of a bunch of legacy levels that you're not actually using in your shot. Okie dokie. So again, vis-a-vis what I said a moment ago, what we see here is that to use the dialogue that we recently revised, meaning recently 2 minutes ago, we find that lo and behold, if we just go like this, we get pretty much what we wanted. And what I would say is what we want to do here is we want to have her say, really? All right, so the challenge is this. And by the way, I'm blanking out here. OBS is reconnecting. So I'll try to pay attention to that today. If I see OBS disconnect, there seems to be some controversy about whether OBS does what it purports to do, which is if it ever disconnects and I freeze, then what happens is when it reconnects, it actually picks up for you as the viewer from where it left off. So there's a cost to that. The cost is that however long it was blanked out becomes an increasingly long stream delay, which means after a couple hours I could have a delay on my stream of 30 seconds, which means everything I say you're hearing 30 seconds later instead of kind of sort of in real time. All right. Well, it was pointed out to me that that doesn't seem to be always happening. It's like it freezes and it actually skips some content. So if I pay attention to the occasional dropouts, I can compensate by sort of recapping stuff that I might have said. These animation keyframes, well, certainly since this is affecting the plastic tool, on the one hand, there's definitely no way of knowing from these dots which bones are affected. So you just sort of have to look at your animation and figure it out. Okay. But worse, if you use the Animate tool with the A key on the plastic tool level, that's quite useful, but there's no way to distinguish between the keyframes that were made by the Animate tool versus the keyframes that were made by the bones, So that means we've got a little bit of a problem. And the solution is probably going to be to go into the schematic. And what I'm going to do is this is column 2 mesh, which is selected. And instead of looking at any of the keys related to the plastic skeleton, what I'm going to look at is probably scaling. Is this the right? Let me just check here what happens if I grab a different column. I want to see what happens in the... Yeah, okay. So that's good. Okay, so I grabbed the plastic tool level, and what we should have is a scale, and indeed I see a bunch of stuff. So that's good news. All right, let's go in and fiddle with that. Okay, my concern now is that, yeah, okay, so this is something where I don't really go into the function editor that often, okay? I think for my purposes, even though this interface adjusting the curves is arguably better in Tahoma than it has been in OpenToonz, probably in my case, I'll do better to just go to the, what would this be called? That goes to curves, so this is called the function. Well, anyway, we'll call it the spreadsheet. Now that makes it a little easier because it looks to me like there's the scale vertically. It looks like it didn't scale vertically. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking there's a problem here. Okay, so the problem is, I think I actually narrowed the overall drawing of Tianara. I narrowed it after the fact, and that's actually what this scaling is, I think. Let me delete these keys, and I'm going to move this out of the way, and let's see what happens. Oh, that did the trick. That was it. Okay, so all I had done, apparently, was I had simply scaled the plastic tool level, and I'm guessing that what happened was he didn't see any animation data in the vertical scale column, because I probably just animated the horizontal scale and the vertical followed along because they were locked. I'm guessing that's what happened, but I don't know that that's what happened. Okay, so that's cool, because what that means is now we can, let me see about this. Okay, this is okay, so this is dialogue. This is her mouth moving, actually. It's being affected, actually, by the plastic tool. This is the pop of her head. So now we've got to dance around with this a little bit. I think probably for me, the solution would be to take out the second drawing, and then what we want to do is reverse these keyframes like so. So I'm just dragging them around so they're in a different order. Really? Okay. So then here we can switch to drawing number 2. Okay. And just drag this in. So this shot's going to come together pretty fast, I must say. Really? That didn't work. Sorry, guys. I made a mistake. Yeah. Obviously, I made a mistake. It's not drawing 2, it's drawing 1. Little dyslexia moment there. Bad news, everyone. Yeah. Really. Okay. And now I'm kind of feeling like I want that expression to change before she lands. Really? Okay. So now I'm going to push these up because I want her initial dialogue to happen pretty quickly. Okay. And it looks to me, okay, so that's interesting. I'm going to delete these. Okay, so here's the deal. We have the we have lip sync action here. Obviously, we can't see her mouth, but we've got lip sync action that is baked into the drawings. So I would say for this shot, probably we don't need to use the plastic tool for that. Okay, so now I'm going to make an amendment here. She says, really? Boom, right there. Okay, so here I'm going to hit the D key. I'm going to make a duplicate of shot number 3. Or, I'm sorry, a duplicate of shot number 1, and it becomes shot number 3. And then I want to make an amendment here to her overall expression, to change her eyebrows a bit. So the easiest way to do that in a smart raster level is going to be to just erase and redraw. So let's just do that. Erase this, and I'm going to give it as much room as I think I need to draw her eyebrows, and then that will make it easier to deal with the ink and paint. And see how that feels. Yeah. Okay, I guess we should probably extend this. And of course we can't see it, so I need to go ahead and get that painted. Yeah, you didn't see that coming, did you? Duh. Duh. Okay, let's go to normal mode, paint, paint. And technically this is actually her eyebrow color. So what I'm going to do is hit the fill tool and go into freehand mode so that I can draw a lasso around the eyebrows and get a reasonably predictable result. And I see a little error right here in the flesh tone that I want to fix. Okay, cool. So now we can come back here. And I'll just turn the column mesh off for the moment. Actually, you know what? X key, what was it? Do not show the mesh. So if you right mouse click on an actual plastic tool skeleton, you can choose not to show the mesh. That's useful. Let's see what this is. Okay, that shows the rigidity, and this shows the stacking order, which is basically not relevant for this particular shot. Okay, so here we go. Really? So she says, okay, so I think this actually needs to come sooner. And in fact, a lot sooner. I think that really should only be on the screen for one frame, maybe two. Okay, don't like this. Gotta make a change. Got to make a change. I'm gonna grab this, snag that pretty close to the bottom, so I can go like that, and then hit the oops, I hit the X key I think instead of the fill tool. Hit the fill tool and do our lasso thing. This is an example where hitting the V key and using the, not the brush, but the paint brush, which Tahoma probably smartly changed into the Smart Raster Paint tool, is what it's called. I can go in here and do some fine tuning on the paint. Alright, I would like to make another change. So I've got this set to lines and areas so that it paints over everything. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's give her a little bit of that kind of squinty, I ain't buying your baloney look. And then I'm going to grab the regular brush and just kind of reinforce the eyelashes. That should work, methinks. Let's find out. Okay, so now, same thing here. Let's get this dialogue up north a little bit. Okay, and I actually think this one should just be extended. So, okay. Let's get this all now kind of lengthened out to where it needs to be. Let's just say probably 48 frames is going to be about right. Little quick housekeeping. This, delete. Let's get everything down to its normal length, because I think all I'm going to have to do is a little bit of lip sync and plastic tool edits, and I'm going to be done with the shot. So that's what we like to see, people. We like to see one shot start to finish in an hour. You don't always get the economies when you know, if you have to paint background and things like that. You know, it definitely can Doesn't always happen, but it's always nice when it can. Really? Really? Okay, so now, here, what does she say? Please explain. Yep, she says please explain. So let me get just get the lip sync in there first. So I'm going to put these 2 frames in, and then I'm going to switch them to 2s, and basically repeat it twice. Control C, Control V, and then this should be able to be extended down to the end of the shot, and we should have everything except the plastic tool animation of her cocking her head back to where it was before. Really? Please explain. Okay, and it's not long enough. So now what I'm going to do is just grab here and hit Alt down arrow and just extend the entire X sheet down to, let's just say 64. Who knows? Actually, you know what? I think, yes, forget that. That was a boo-boo. What I really should have done is, it's interesting, one thing I guess I learned yesterday is, once you manually set the start and end points on your X sheet, from then on, as far as I can tell, once you edit it yourself, like I'm doing right now, Tahoma quits keeping track of it. So the general default thing is, as your X sheet lengthens and shortens, it adjusts your preview range. But once you go start fiddling with this manually, it says, yeah, I guess you want to control it, so I'm going to quit paying attention. Okay, so now, when she does this, let's get rid of this as well. Boom. And I would say we're going to go from this to this to this, I think. So I'm just going to do that 1 frame and see how it feels. It's obviously going to be punctuated by the plastic tool animation, by a little turn of the head. Really? Wait a second. I thought I told you, Mr. Plastic Tool. Okay, that's interesting. So if I use the plastic tool, it doesn't show the mesh. But if I want to not show the mesh at all, okay, now it's gone. A little weird. There it is again. I guess I'll just have to turn that level off. So that means I'm going to have to manually turn it on when I want to adjust the bones, which means that all of the benefit of turning off the mesh display is pretty much lost. Really? Do explain. Okay. So I believe we have still got, well, actually I think we have linear interpolation on our animation. Let's check that. Nope, it's set to constant. Okay, that's cool. Let's roll our own tweens. So I'm gonna grab these 2, Control C, and hit Control V, and then I actually have to reverse these because I want to transition from that to that. And it looks like we're getting linear interpolation after all, which is kind of a bad thing. So I'm going to hit Control C and make a copy of this key down here so that it doesn't interpolate between this long stretch here, which obviously looks pretty stupid. Okay. That's working. So in this shot, I would say, let's go ahead and I will use the camera to do the, you know, the smash zoom. I could do it in Vegas actually in the editor, but for our purposes here, we'll just go ahead and do that. So I'm hitting the A key, and I'm going to zoom in just to get a keyframe. And then basically from here to here, I'm hitting Control, by the way. It's in position mode, so I'm moving the camera. I'm not scaling it and changing the lens length or anything like that. I'm just moving it on the Z-axis. Okay, now it's doing constant interpolation, which I guess I would expect. So why don't we just roll our own tween? Cool beans. So there's a small change and then a bigger change. That bigger change isn't much bigger though, that's for sure. So let's make it even bigger. Okay, let's give her an eye blink. Here, I'm going to hit the B key, boom. And we're just going to hit Shift Spacebar to zoom in. And now what I'm going to do is just draw a shape over here. Draw a shape over here. Fill them. Sorry, we want to be in normal mode on our fill tool. And then I'm going to hit the R key to sample the flesh tone. And then add another color, which is going to be pretty dark for her eyelashes. Hit the B key. And now what I'm going to just do is hit the up and down arrows so I can kind of see, just kind of mark where my you guys know what I'm trying to do, where the beginning of her eyelashes go and what the curvature would be. And we can just kind of sketch this in. It's only going to be on the screen for a second or two. I mean, I'm sorry, not a second. I meant a frame. It's going to be quick. Quick, 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 quick. Okay, and I'll just kind of scrape over that with the flesh tone color. Okay, so I think we're good. If I really want to use this potentially in other places, it would be smart to pipe the eye blink layer, which is layer 6. So let's just call this blink, B-L-I-N-K. Blink should be actually piped through the plastic tool so that when her head moves, the blinks go with it, which, as you can see, causes the initial positioning of the blinks to be in the wrong place. That's okay, though. All we have to do is go into, I'm going to go to all modes so we get a widget on the screen. And put the widget right in the center. Now, if I want to, Control C, I could smack a, like when she moves her head, it kind of makes sense for her to have a blink in there. That's kind of normal. So, but it's amazing how much mileage you get out of eye blinks, eyebrows. I'm going to put a second copy of this here so that it's a like you know what that means. You know. Oh, really? Right. Cool. So I actually think this shot is done. Let me look at the render and see how things are looking. I'm digging it, baby. File, save all. Now, let's think about something here. Let's think about something. What if there was a darkening of her attitude? There's multiple ways we could do that. But what I'm thinking, I'm just going to try this because I think it'll be maybe kind of sort of fun to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a vector level, kind of like a shadow type situation. Hit the B key, and I'm going to draw a shape that kind of follows her all around like this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but okay, so that should be all filled in. Okay, so I think what should happen here, I don't know for sure. Let's turn the opacity of this down. Okay, I'm going to turn the opacity down. And now I'm going to hit the S key. I'm going to grab this shape just to be safe, because if we render this, yeah, we can see the line around it. So what I'm going to do is here I'm going to grab the selection tool, grab this shape, and set the outline to 0. So there is no outline. That way it's going to actually look correct when it renders. Okay, so then what we're going to do is set the opacity of it to 0. And again, I'm not sure this is going to work, but I think it is. So now here, does this affect that? I'm hoping it does. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go down here and set the opacity as high as it's ever going to be, which is probably about there, and set another key. Now let's see if that worked. And it looks to me like, strike that, hold on. I might have had a stupid attack. Yeah, it's constant interpolation. So that's okay. Let's learn something in the process here. So what I'm going to do is double click this. That doesn't seem to work. So this is column 7. I'll call it dark for sort of like darkening or something. So I'm going to grab the schematic and go to the layer called dark. There it is. And where the heck is the where are the animation keyframes for materials? That looks like that might be problematic. Hey, Super Better, hello. What is the coolest effect in OpenToonz Tahoma in your opinion? The best bang for your buck in terms of upping your production value for almost no effort, in my opinion, would be body highlight. This effect right here. It takes 2 seconds to set up, and it really makes the imagery pop. So, especially a situation like this sequence where there is a strong light source coming from one direction. So what I'm seeing here is that I'm looking for animation keys pertinent to the material, and I don't know if Tahoma wants to let me see that, so that's kind of problematic. I could sit and fight it for a while, but probably the solution would be to just pause a second, take these off, go ahead and set the opacity where it's going to be ultimately, and then let's just do it a different way. We go in here into the effects schematic. What we're going to try to do here is take her character. So there's the dark layer I just created. And then her character is, I mean, it's basically column 2. I mean, so let's just change the name of that so we can see what we're doing. We'll call that Tia for Tianara, since that is her name. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the dark and we're going to comp it over top of her. So I'm going to go Insert, Layer Blending, INO, and let's just do Multiply. Boom. And then we'll make her the background. So now if we look at it rendered, okay, so she is darkened. If we turn this off, sorry, wrong one. If we turn this off, that's what we have without that effect. Okay, so now we can open this up. We're not going to use it as a clipping mask, which I'm not going to explain right now. But what we are going to do is the same thing we did before, which is right here, we're going to make the opacity of that effect zilch. And then down here, very slowly, probably about there, we're going to start dialing it up. Well, I mean, we've got transparency built into the material, so I guess we can probably go pretty aggressive with it. And I guess we need to explicitly set an animation key, I think. So if we go here, we should see nothing. Little more, little more. Okay, so that's what we wanted. So output settings, we're really gambling here on the timing for sure. This is shot number 526. So I just wanted to see if it works to have this like darkening effect. It may be a little too cheeseball, but we'll see. let's cut it into the show and see what we have. So yeah, that's actually a really good question, because we've been fiddling around the last couple days. Super batter. We've been fiddling around with the bloom effect, which has basically amounted to me rolling my own bloom effect instead of using the one that's built in, because it's a little bit buggy. But again, as far as bang for your buck, you can see I'm using the body highlight pretty frequently. I mean, it's just a real useful effect. It's like it doesn't call attention to itself, but yet it really adds to the production value and the visual quality. So yeah, there you go. So we're going to open this sequence, which is, by the way, playing at 8 frames per second. There it is. Let's pop that baby in there. You know, I don't know if I love that or not. It is canceling out her shadows, so we're going to have to look at that, but we'll ignore that problem for the moment. I'll switch to this screen so you guys can see the full screen view here. So let's just kind of watch this. So we got this shot I just completed of Mel. And you can see the properties, the resampling going on, which is not desirable. Let's look at this again. Please explain. Yeah, that didn't work at all. And by the way, I'm just going to get rid of that. I don't really like it. But you'll notice not only did it cancel out the shadow, which that could be a bug-ish thing, or it could be just I piped it into the image processing pipeline in the wrong place, which is pretty likely. Okay, but the thing is, I mentioned this yesterday, if you notice closely, you can see all kinds of that banding going on, where instead of being a smooth gradation, there's something about the color handling that is really, yeah, in terms of delivering a professional result, this is a real deficiency actually in Tahoma and OpenToonz, is this banding that we see going on. That's very, very egregious. But it is what it is. I'm going to just get rid of this column. It's not helping, in my opinion. So it was a neat idea that failed. All right, and now we should be able to boom, boom. Yeah, I think that potato head angry eyes, baby. So potato head angry eyes, baby. So okay, so we're almost an hour into today's live stream, and what we have is one shot complete. Looks like, let me double check the editing on this. I just want to make sure that we're not letting it hang on the screen too long. Boom, right there it should end. Okay, so yeah, we definitely were. Let me check that again. Boom, yeah. Okay, so there. So what have we actually accomplished? About 4 seconds. About 4 seconds of show there. Now if you count what we did earlier today and last night, we're at about 9 on the day. And which would put us at 9 yesterday, which is not... Oh wait, did we do this shot too? I think we did. Yes, we did. 19 plus 9. Oh, guys, that's pretty good. That's what you want. Okay, so this shot's going to be fun and interesting and pretty easy, actually. If I go back over the scenes, we're going to the wide shot here. And I want to just scan back over some of the earlier recent shots-ish. And right there's, this is what we're looking for. If we pull up 477, and I want to add one little tiny caveat too, which is that probably I'm going to be amending this background painting. I'm not loving the balloons. I mean, I kind of get what I had in mind when I did it, but I'm not sure I'm really loving the balloons. So, if I do get rid of the balloons, then all of the earlier shots that used this background will have to be re-rendered, but that's not a big deal. It'll take about 20 minutes of dinking around. So, with that in mind, I'd say we open up 477 and start taking a look at what we have to work with. So, File, Save All. Isn't this fun? Isn't this really fun? This is like the most fun ever. Let's load a scene. This is going to be 477, and I'm assuming, by the way, that this is in fact an OpenToonz or a Tahoma shot, and not a Krita. Okay, so here we go. This is good. This is useful. Okay, so in the image sequence that contains the background, lo and behold, we already have the painting that we need. This is the wrong one because actually the flap, the entrance to the tent, is basically closed. As we saw from the close-up shots, Vespar is standing here and Tianara is sitting here. So in this shot, she's going to be sitting there tapping her. She's going to be kind of going like this. You know, like Miss Impatient. Therefore, number one, I'm going to grab this background painting and actually just drag it into this other column. Stretch this down to the bottom. Drag this over to here so it's in the background and get rid of this column. Now immediately what we're going to do is get rid of Gullet because he's not in this shot. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Okay? Here, only reason, actually strike what I was about to say. We're going to redo Tianara not only to get her pose right, but also to get her into a smart raster level as well. So there's that to consider. But I'm going to leave this level in the scene because we have all these images we can draw from in order to figure out what our colors need to be. So that's useful. And with that in mind, we need to take this and save it. I'm clicking on the other screen, that's why you just saw the preview. I'm going to save this immediately as shot number 527. Okay, so File, Save as 527. Okay, before we go too far, actually before I save it, I'm going to look at my script and make sure there's nothing I'm missing or forgetting. Okay, okay. Okay, so what she says, really, please explain. And then he says, well, I mean, any girl would be thrilled to, and he doesn't even finish his sentence before she jumps in and says, to what? Marry his Royal Highness in his extravagant robes? That's where we're going from here. So anyway, so indeed, we will save this right now as 527. And what I think I will do, oh, I need to change my render setting, my output settings too, so that this is going to render to 527. 5.2. There's that. We can save. Actually, before I save all, I'm going to go to my cast and delete all unused levels. Ba-doom. And that just cleans things up. Save all. Okay, we're in good shape, ready to start. And again, like I said, we can always go in and modify this background painting, take the balloons out, change whatever we want. I'm going to come back over here and look at the painting. So you can see what her pose is. She's kind of got her back arched and she's got her finger up there, and the finger tapping is going to be the thing that's going to be like an animated loop. And then you can see his hands are out like he's trying to explain something. He's kind of like, you know, geez, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing. How many people got watching? We got 7 concurrent viewers. Well, as I have said in the past, and Darren T has quoted me recently, identify yourself. Identify yourself. Who's here? Why are you here? What's going on? Talk to me, baby. All right. So now the next step is going to be I'm going to lower the opacity actually of the background because it's just distracting me. Okay? Now for now, I'm going to also get rid of these characters. Okay? Then the next thing I'm going to do is grab this shot right here, and I'm going to go ahead and switch to full HD over here. I shouldn't say full HD, I should say full resolution, which is actually broadcast HD. That way I can copy this from Vegas to the Windows clipboard. And I'll switch this back to half. Jump over to Tahoma, and I should be able to paste in the storyboard image. And indeed, there it is. Why it still needs to be scaled, I'm not sure, but who cares? Let's just smack that up like that. And then what I'm going to do is we'll pump this back up a little bit and pump this one down so that we can make sure everything is sized and positioned about right. And actually, that looks really good. I got it spot on, baby. Okay, cool. So that means I can take this level, go ahead and lower the opacity a lot. And this one, we can, for the moment, crank it back up. And in this case, this is one of those rare instances where we can just dive into ink and paint. I'm not going to worry about this stuff that's blocking her body. We'll sort of come back to that if we need to. So let's rock and roll and get the inking done, like right now, post haste. Boom. Little wrinkle action. Little wrinkle action. And my parrot is over there saying, okay, okay. He's listening to everything I'm saying and reacting to it. Okay, so this is going to be like that. Boom, boom, boom. We don't need to belabor this. Get some wrinkles in there. Da-da-da-da. Everything looks fine. Insofar as her feet are concerned, they were kind of crossed in kind of a weird way, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is actually the bottom of her left foot. Okay, so there's going to be a little bit of toe action right there. And then I would say let's just kind of put a shape right there that indicates her other leg, and I think that's all we really need to do for that. Okay? Zoom in here. I see a problem. Let's hit the eraser, redo this line. Back to the B key, snake that on down like that, and now we're going to go boom, 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 and boom. And now that's her veil. And another problem, this actually is wrong. This should actually be kind of bunched up like that. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and clean that off a bit too. So that's really more like what we should be seeing. And now this is a wide shot, so we probably, I don't even think that's necessary there. Okay, so now the question becomes, do we put her finger on another level? I would say no. Let's just, we'll draw this, and then we'll create version 2. Hit the D key. Actually, I don't want to hit the D key. Strike that. Why am I going to paint all this twice? Right? Okay, so now step 2, if we're going to be keeping track, is we're going to grab this, and here we're going to say we need, that's her outline color, which should be lightened up a little bit. Okay? We're going to need flesh tone, head covering, probably dress. Okay, so flesh tone, so I'm hitting the R key, sample that color, sample that color, sample that color. Now we can turn the head covering's darker, fill that up. The dress, fill that up. The finger, fill that up. Okay. Now we can hit the D key. And then I'm just going to erase, chisel this out right here like that, so that I can then go like that, close those shapes, fill this in. If this was all that had to happen in the shot, we'd be shockingly close to done with it. But unfortunately, there's some animation on the prints too. So, okay. So then this shot is going to be Control C. So she's going to be sitting there. I think that's too slow, actually. So spank me. I'm going to redo that. I think we're going to reframe this, or reframe on ones. Grab that, Control C. Just hitting Control V a bunch of times. Just want to see. Yeah, I like that. That's snarky. Okay. Snarky, snarky, snarky. So here's the F key to fill number 1, fill number 2, because I basically made a mistake and forgot to fill her feet. So we'll just kind of rectify that now. And then this is just going to be the outline color, so that's fine. Okay, so now if we take this, smack it up to full volume, as it were. File, save all. Things are looking pretty good. Dirt says, Dirt smiles a bit, and then, what is that, Ashton? Is that like a, are you waving, or is that a waving or a clapping? Are you celebrating my awesome animation work? Is that what that is? Says the insufferably arrogant Dave, who assumes that everything's all about him. Okay. We'll deal with TNR's shadows shortly. But, yeah. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to draw the prince with no arms, so that we can then animate the arms on another level. Okay? Problem solved. Alright, so now what we're going to do is, remember, this is very, very wide. So we want to keep it a little on the cartoony side, folks. But one thing I do need to do is reference the close-up shots so that I don't make a gross mistake in his costuming situation. Okay? So over here on another screen, I'll just make like that. Oh yeah, I already made a mistake. See what happens? It's all your fault, people. I'm kidding. Okay, so this is actually supposed to go like that. Basically something like that. So this I'm not liking. This I'm not liking. It's a little bit sloppy there, Jack. That should be curved back like that. There we go. This, probably something like that. It's almost like a... Hi all, still fiddling with the budget. Where would we be without Excel? I'll tell you where we'd be. We'd be using QuickBooks, which is what I've been using. I'm actually still using a version of QuickBooks from 1998. I'm not kidding. I still use the same version of QuickBooks that I've been using for decades. There's just, like so many things, there's just never been a reason to upgrade. Okay. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do this anime style. Oh, this is going to be fun. Alright, so this actually comes down and kind of slaps over top of his costume like that. He does have, boy, I need to go back here. Guys, I got to take a minute here and just go back. And it seems to me that there was a yeah, right there. This is what I needed to see. That's what I needed to see. Okay, so now I'm going to make a quick modification here because I've kind of gone too far on the cartoony side. I'm going to hit Control and just smack that up a bit. That's better. B key. Alright, so now this actually has a dual sort of thing to it. And then he's got sort of a jeweled, I don't like that. Let's try that again. See if we can make it a little closer to a proper circle-ish. Okay, here on his shoulders, he's got a little gold decorative thingy-dingy. I'm sure you guys didn't know it, but the official name for that item is, in fact, thingy-dingy. So if you didn't know that, now you do. Okay, and we're just going to go like that. In this case, I'm just going to put an indication here and here and here, because we never really saw the full costume, and I don't believe it sort of is open. I think it's basically closed. So now we're going to deal with the man's boots. I say the man, he's a kid really. This will be in silhouette essentially. Okay, so I'm drawing it in such a way that it's just going to be a silhouette color. Okay, so that takes care of the prints. So we're going to need helmet, flesh tone, purple costume, the leather, and the gold. So there's the gold. Here we want to kind of go like about like that. There's the leather. Here's the purple majestic color, if you will. Vespar's got a slightly darker skin tone, slightly toward the olive. This is going to essentially be gray with a tiny push to the blue. Tiny push. Boom. Okay, so let's give this a crack. See how far we get. Boom, boom. That feels too saturated to me. Gold. This is going to be that and that. So then, like I said, we're going to animate his arms separately, since that's really where all the action is, other than his mouth. He is going to have some lip sync. Okay, and then I'm going to add another color that's going to be black, and then just coming up a little bit in the blue zone for our washed out silhouette situation here. Okay, now let me zip out here just a bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn that level off. Okay, yeah, so now let's just go in and make some adjustments. So this can be, I think that can be lighter. This is too saturated, so we can just adjust the saturation here. But bringing the saturation to where it needs to be kind of suggests that it's a little bit too bright. The gold color, likewise, really should be quite a bit darker, so it sits in the mix nicely. The leather, yeah, a little bit of the same. And then obviously the headdress, same situation. So we are going to use some shadows, but you know, let's kind of get it in the zone first. It doesn't, what good's it going to do to work from a color key, right, if you're going to have to change all the colors anyway. So we just want to kind of get it in the zone. Meanwhile, TNR's colors are pretty much okay. I'm going to suggest that perhaps we should make a similar adjustment here, and then later maybe we'll compensate a little bit by using that body highlight effect to brighten things back up again. So that's feeling pretty good. I like it. Okay, so now this is the stuff that's not going to move on the prints. This is going to be Control C, boom, 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 boom. Going to continue. And so now let's deal with the boy's arms. Okay, B key, boom. That created a new level. And okay, if this is his waist, his fingertips come down about to there. So as I like to say, I'm going to work from the known to the unknown. So what's known is where his wrists go. I'm going to just let this kind of be a little on the baggy side. I don't think in any other shots we've ever seen his hands. Yeah, we really haven't. So with that, I'm going to just leave it on that shot. And this should probably be something like that. This one, what we're going to have to do, I'm going to actually use a different color so that I can go like that. Okay, so now I'm going to hit the R key and sample that color. And then go ahead and fill both of these. And as you can see, we're going to need a little indication of the edge right there. Okay, zooming way in, and now I'm just going to make this very simple, because again, this is the focus is on his speech really, and there's going to be a little shift of sorry, R key to sample that color. Little shift of the arms, but basically, okay, so here we have a little bit of a problem. In this case, even if they're lost in shadow, I think that we're still going to want that skin tone to be slightly, actually a tiny bit more saturated and a tiny bit darker, like that. Now this is all going to look a little better when it's all said and done because we will be adding shadows. One thing I'm seeing here in this drawing that I'm all of a sudden not liking so much is the thickness there. Frankly, this is the problem. This is actually more accurate to what he's supposed to be wearing, so I'm just going to make that change. Ta-da! Excuse me, got a little itch on my nose. And probably there'd be sort of a indication of some wraps or something. Okay, having done that, let's push his outlines a little towards the gray, as we often do. Same thing here. Boop. On Tianara, we're pretty much there already. So let's zoom out and see what we have. Okay, little awkward, not bad. But I'm still not really happy with the level of caricature that's going on here. This is making me slightly uncomfortable. So I'm going to actually push this up even more. I'm going to kind of push it in. Let's hit the N key. Frankly, that's probably about right. Okay, so we'll take the B key, kind of tighten back up over this. Hey Ajax, hit the fill tool, go ahead and fill this in. B key, he does have these sort of, he's got sort of the Kevin Bacon nose, and even the cheekbones actually. He's kind of, visually he's kind of modeled on Kevin Bacon is what I was thinking anyway. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just draw the second pose. His line of dialogue is, I mean, any girl would be thrilled to, and that's as far as he gets. So basically what we're going to do is just redraw. Let's just put a mark there so that we have a drawing, and now I can hit the greater than, less than symbols to just create these keys. So now what I want to do is I'm going to find an arc right there. There's an arc, and so right there is basically where the sleeves would go. Okay, like I said, working from the known to the unknown. Here we go. Boom. Boom. Little bit of slack here on the sleeves. Okay, now I'm going to close this with the purple. I guess the same thing here actually, so that I can then fill them. That's fine. B key. Now we'll go back in and kind of touch it up a bit. Ta-da. Okay, and then B key, I'm really improvising here, not being like mega careful on the anatomical considerations, but I think we're probably okay. Okay, we'll just kind of go with that. Fill, fill, fill. This is the actual size that's going to appear on the screen. So it's not perfect. And his whole body is too, he looks stubby. He looks actually kind of stupid. So, and the hands look too small. Hey man, stuff happens. Let's pack those up a little hotter. S key. We'll go in, we'll get closer here shortly and clean it up, because that's gonna create some anomalies. But yeah, the problem is he's wearing this robe that is he really needs a belt, honestly. I gotta think about this. I might want to pause and really think about his costuming situation, because we've only seen him from the waist up basically, and I'm kind of asking for trouble here because I haven't thought through what his ultimate vesture is going to be, and it seems to really be, I don't know. Now I'm starting to think maybe I'm okay. What I'm thinking is, let's say there's basically some religious overtones to this story. So let's save all. I'm just thinking let's just extend this down further. Okay, it's saving, so we'll give Tahoma a second to think about what it wants to do. So I'm going to say let's just actually take that out. I'm going to grab the S key and just shrink his feet a bit. That's probably too much. I mean, he is a gangly youth. Okay. And now the other thing is, really, you wouldn't have this curvature thing going on. So I'm hitting Control Spacebar with the bottom of this, maybe a little bit, but very little. Just a little tiny bit of curvature. Okay, so now we're going to test something. I'm going to hit the eraser tool, and I'm going to switch it to segment and see if this works. Oh, look at that. That's a Tahoma 1.2 thing. Cleans up all those loose edges. That's pretty sweet. F key to fill that in, and now I'm going to hit Shift Alt R, which resets the rotation. That's a hotkey I set up, so it's not like a default. But yeah, basically that's better. He looks kind of awkward in his fancy schmancy robes. And another thing I want to do is in here, I'm going to make a dupe of this color. I'm actually going to use this in this drawing to suggest some texture, and because in the close-up we kind of saw this, so I think we want to probably get this in here, just because it does kind of suggest a little bit of a fancy schmancy look. Okay, so let's do the same thing here. We'll make this a little lighter and just kind of essentially put like a seam, little seam thing going on. You know, clearly we're sort of making this up as we go along for sure. Down here, maybe a similar bit of an effect. And then just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to add a darker version of it so we can actually let the seam actually catch some shadow. Okay? Now, we could always do some of this kind of stuff with post effects as well, but since it is such a wide shot, I'm trying to sort of keep it simple here a little bit. So, Same thing on the gold. Let's just kind of give it a tiny bit of specular. Here, maybe we want to play with darkening these a little more after all. Yes, I think so. I think so. Okay, I'm liking what I see. His line again is, I mean, okay, I gotta just play this. I mean, any girl. Okay, so right there is where that would be. So boom, that goes to there. This goes to here, stretch that down. And, yep. Now we're just gonna keep it simple, folks. Fill that. Okay, that was actually supposed to be north up here a little bit. Grab it, drag it. B key. Grab these. Reframe this on 2s. Boom. Alright, I am going to... Oh yeah, so he says any girl would be thrilled to... Alright, and then this color is going to be just made somewhat transparent, which allows the flesh tone to bleed through. We're going to have to do some shadows. And so with that, let's hit the old play button and see what we've got. Seems to be working. Now we could do a shadow layer on these guys that will comp over top of both of them. And frankly, you know what? I don't think we need to. I think we could probably do what we have to do with the body highlight effect, actually. So I'm going to take the sketch and just delete it. We don't need it in there anymore. So I'm going to go A. Columns 3, 4, and 5, and 6 need to be combined into a single unit so we can put effects over top of them. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go Insert Effects, Layer Blending, Over. So there's no blending effects going on. And just so you know, this effect, every time you plug something in, it creates a new slot for something else. And the stacking order here is exactly the stacking order here. So in the X sheet, everything on the right, unless you overrule it in the schematic, everything on the right is comped over top of everything to the left. Here it's kind of like everything at the top is comped over everything to the bottom. So you could actually change the order in which layers are composited together, but there's no need to in this case. Okay, so now we will be able to do our body highlight, and we don't need this color reference anymore. We've done what we needed with that, so I'm deleting that as well. And again, just as an abundance of caution, I am going to flush out my scene cast, remove all unused levels, and hit Control S to save the whole shot. Okay, so now we are in rendered mode. So let me hit the N key so we see. Well, okay, it's saving, so it's telling me to wait. Will you create the sound effects too later? Yeah. I'll be going out and recording a bunch of Foley and custom sound effects and all that kind of stuff. That's no big deal. That's just taking half a day to go do it. Okay, so F3. So what we want to do is we're going to actually use multiple instances, I expect, of the body highlight effect. One for shadows and one for actual highlight. So this is going to be body highlight. And if we're going to use that for the highlight one, I would say our X probably needs to be about 8. Let me see here. Our Y probably similar, actually. So because it's such a wide shot, we don't want to go too far with it. And so that's fine. I'm going to pump the transparency a bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Control C, click away, hit Control V, and I'm going to pipe this through another instance of it. Okay, and then this instance of it's going to be a little different. This one, first of all, we're going to invert it. And then we're going to go into subtract mode. There you go. Look at that. All right, and so now we can pump the transparency. And now we have, again, the same option to, I don't know what those numbers want to be. Let's just change this to 30 and see what happens. Not too bad, not too bad. So let's go 85. Okay. This could work. Let's go 60 on the Y. Yeah, you know, not too bad. Problem is we're getting a shadow here that's obviously unnatural. Doesn't really make any sense. So it doesn't look like we're going to be able to use it for shadows. There are situations where it would work, but in this case, doesn't work. Okay? So with that, let's just add a final vector level on top, and that's going to be our shadow layer. We're basically going to need 2 keyframes, one for the shadow, and then one for the shadow with the prince's arms out. So, B key, I'm going to sneak some shadow action under there. Gosh. This doesn't make any sense. Actually, let me undo that. Undo. Okay. Yeah, I don't think... We're going to have to use 2 shadow layers if I'm going to do what I'm trying to do here. And obviously we've got a problem here in the prince's level that needs to be fixed. But yeah, we need to do proper shadows here. And then we'll go back and do an overall cast shadow. Not a cast shadow, but basically. Most of their bodies are engulfed in shadow for this shot. It just is what it is. So the purpose of this level will be to just get the basic shadow activity happening. So as you guys can see, if we lower this to about 14 or so, that's going to look pretty good. And if we look at it in rendered mode, what we can do here is go to our scene and say, hey scene, go ahead and let the column transparency be included in the render. And now it is. Okay, so we're just going to keep dealing with the shadows here on the prince's helmet situation. I would say this, we can probably let that hide in shadow a little bit. Probably a little something under his nose. Got something under his chin. On his feet. Okay, and then, well, what about Tia? So, same kind of situation over here. We'll just kind of block that in. Now we're just going to draw this like that. Doesn't matter if we go outside the lines. That's irrelevant. We'll fix that here in half a second. Doesn't matter if we go out of the lines. And maybe just a little indication right there. I'm not going to try to accommodate the finger. That's being grabbed a little bit by the body highlight effect anyway, so I think we're cool with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is hit the F3 and we're going to take the shadow. Sorry, I guess we need to probably name it here. SHD. Okay, and then this is going to be comped over top of this. Thusly, we're going to go Insert Effects, Layer Blending IN, and then slide this down to here, and then make adjustments to accommodate his the fact that his arms are held out like they are. So we'll just add some shadow action there. As you can see, there's still some actual stuff on the prints that needs to be corrected. And so let's go and do that now. So I'm going to turn that off, go up here, and first of all, let's see if there's any hiccups in this level. That you can't see, so it doesn't matter. So it's actually in the arms level. What was I seeing? I think I was seeing something here. Yes. Okay, there we go. Really, this is supposed to be... We need to have some indication of his neck. So, fill that. Kind of have to do it the hard way a little bit. Let's get the costume back in there. And I think that probably got us where we needed to be. Let's see about this shot. Oh yeah, so there's some hiccups there too. Alright, here we're going to grab this, hit effectively solo the layer. So what I need to do is take the purple and draw a little border here. And now I'm also going to actually erase all this garbage. That's interesting. I hit the E key. Oh, it's in segment mode. I'm almost always in freehand mode when it comes to the eraser. So I'm just going to clean that off. Hit the B key so I can close that shape up and then get everything refilled, and we're back in business. And this one's botched as well. Oh my. Well, we knew it was going to be, didn't we? So B key. Fill those guys in. Fill that in. Get those little details that are languishing. Hit the Control tilde to unsolo the layer. I can see that this layer, this little extra erroneous thing I drew in the wrong level is going to be a problem. So we got to get rid of that. And hey, Rasley. So I actually think, let's look at it in rendered mode. Not too bad. In this case, I think probably the body highlight needs to be a little more aggressive. So let's take this, and we'll turn the transparency down a bit. Yeah, I think we'll heat it up. Now, it's arguable that, gosh, you know what? I would say column 2 is TNR. Let me label that. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's take body highlight, Control C, click away, Control V, and let's run TNR through a separate instance of the body highlighting. Okay, so that's going to be a problem because of the shadow. Shadow's being multiplied by that. So this needs to be actually an layer blending over this over that, and then I think we're okay. Okay, so then why did I do that? So that I can take this and actually pipe up the transparency on the instance that's affecting her. And okay, that's interesting. Through the group. My mistake. So I just want to soften. Frankly, the blur should probably be more like 2 pixels. Sharpen it up a bit. And then the body highlight on the prints, maybe 3 pixels, but we definitely want that one to be a little more harsh. Ta-da! I think the shot is done. Now, you could complain about cast shadows on the prints, but I think we're probably okay here. So this is shot number 527. Let's check our timing. I mean, any girl would be thrilled to. Got to get the timing right. I mean, any girl would be thrilled to. And then she interrupts him. Okay, I'm going to just go for it, cut it into the show, see what we got. Time to go to the show. So here we are. Hi, Dave, Maria, and fellow animation fans. Hey, Tom, doing art. So now what we're going to do is we're going to import scene number 527. Render, open the sequence. I know you guys can't see this, but I'm just doing that on my third screen. I'm one of those lucky people who has 3 screens going on. Okay, There it is. Properties, we don't want resampling. This is the shot we just did, so let's delete that. And so far today we've completed this shot, done this shot. I should switch these screens. So today we've completed this shot, which we started last night. We've done this shot from beginning to end, and then we just did this shot. Okay, so I'm going to put this as full resolution, and let's just take a look at these 3 shots in a row. So he's overhearing, and oh my gosh, he's like practically puking on what he's hearing. She's kind of challenging him. Okay. Okay, and in the storyboard, this shot, I'll tell you the truth, I'm a little distracted in the fact that I definitely want to punch up the background image. I'm really not happy with the background painting. It's actually too sketchy. It's too much of a painting, actually. It's not actually simple enough. I know I keep saying the word actually. So that's something I want to address. So that's distracting me a bit. The overall look of the shot is probably okay, but I think the way I had it in the storyboard, where he says, I mean, any girl would be, and then it would actually cut to this shot, to a close-up in midstream. So this shot probably only wants to be about 2 seconds long. So it would look something like this. I mean, any girl would be thrilled to, and then he gets interrupted by her saying, to what? Oh yeah, so she says, to what? Marry His Royal Highness in his extravagant robes? And then he's like, what? You know, what's wrong with my robes? Etc., etc. So you get the idea. Okay, I think with that, I am ready to give it a break. So I've been live streaming for almost 2 hours. We've successfully completed 6 seconds here, plus the shot we finished from last night. So we're around 11 seconds for the day. I think I'm going to try to get at least 1 or 2 shots done yet today. And this one should be pretty efficient, just because we're going to be repurposing the rigging that we already have from the other close-ups. So with that, I'm going to sign off. It is 12:08, and I am ready for a break. So thanks, guys, for hanging out. I probably will be back later today. It wouldn't be a shock if I was. And as you guys know,